And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right. I said welcome back because I know you were just listening to our stuff and you loved it so much that you came back for more. Folks, that was a brilliant decision. Absolutely fantastic because we have a lot more for you. Why do we have more for you? Because this is the podcast that's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And my guest today is a podcaster. That's right. You cracked the code. You folks are, in fact, brilliant. All right. Way to go. This is the place where we come together to raise each other up. And this is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So let's make sure that we get sailing immediately and bring in this awesome guy that has come on with us today from Canada. Here we go. Author of Booked Solid Marketing Strategies for Accounting Firms and host of the hit podcast CFO Chronicles, The Secrets Behind Success. Please welcome James Donovan. James, how you doing, brother?
Rory, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Me too. I love that you're so. I hate the word, but I love the concept. I love that you're so niche with what you do, and I know we're going to talk a lot about that today. But before we kind of get into that, who's James Donovan? You know, what got you into all this mess? Where do you come from? That type of thing. Go ahead and tell our guests, man.
Yeah, wow, what a wide, an open-ended question. Who is James Donovan? Well, I've been running this business for about 6 years now. Digital marketing business, working with accountants, fractional CFOs, and bookkeepers. Um, Really passionate about that. I don't have a background in accounting. I actually hated that course in university. It was pretty much at the top of the alphabet when it was deciding to choose a new niche. No, I did have some people mention, hey, try out accounting. So I landed there, but it's just a cheesy joke I like to lean into talking about the niche. But outside of that, big sports fan, grew up playing a lot of hockey, obviously in Canada, and enjoy being out on the golf course in the summer. So marketing is just what we do, during the day, and then enjoy spending time with friends and family outside of work.
Nice, nice. Okay, so are you an accountant?
I'm not.
You're not. Okay, but
No.
you're a marketer and
Yeah.
okay. So I guess other than your quick intro to accounting, where you decided that you really didn't like it, and I totally understand. I love that. That's fantastic. Um, what led you to start marketing, and then what led you to focus on that particular field?
For sure. Yeah. I went to business school, business marketing, graduated from there, and I always had a travel bug. I lived in Sweden for a year after high school playing hockey. Really
Wow.
enjoyed that experience being away. So when I came home and went to school, graduated and quickly got into a marketing role with a hockey company. Knew it wasn't, I didn't see myself staying there long term. So I actually packed up, bought a one-way ticket to Australia, started backpacking through there. Some of the jobs I picked up along the way to make sure I could, stay at a hostel and keep feeding myself and travel around. I started doing door-to-door sales in Melbourne for about 6 to 7 months. And then after that, picked up a job doing phone sales for a TV production. So I started to get a taste of the sales and marketing on that front. Came home, I moved to Toronto, got a couple different marketing jobs there. The last one I landed on before eventually being let go was selling advertisements on adult websites. So I started to get an understanding for the affiliate marketing world, how much money there is to be made online, a little bit more about the digital space. I always knew I wanted to do something for myself, and eventually got laid off from that job. I think was the best thing that ever happened. Saw an ad on Facebook, start a digital marketing company, get 5 clients, make 10 grand a month. It's super easy. It's a little bit harder than, that ad made it out to be. Bought into this guy's course. Again, that was probably the best, 3,500 or $4,000 I ever spent. And that was like majority of my funds at the time. So it was very scary. Worked with a ton of different industries getting started. It was during COVID. Um, Pretty much knocking on doors, biking to different people's spots in Toronto, like who can I run Facebook ads for? Facebook account got shut down. Started working with commercial cleaners. That seemed like the most, you know, um, seemed like the best niche to be working with during a pandemic. Did that for about a year and a half, and then someone said, "Why don't you try getting leads for accounting firms as well? They can work with people nationwide." So I started doing that. Was quickly introduced to the employee retention tax credit a couple of years ago. We ran with that for a few years. And then once that was done, we were starting to get pretty ingrained in the space. And then just asked our clients, what else do you guys do that you can sell for a lot of money? It was their advisory services and tax plans. So it kind of just been 100% in on accounting the last, say, 3.5, 4 years.
Wow. Okay. So part of the decision was, what's a viable business during COVID? Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't get to hear that often. I mean, there's all sorts of COVID stories. We all have a COVID story in our podcasting space, right? But wow. Okay. So
That was a long-winded answer for you, Rory. I was just trying to give you a bit of background as to
I
how
love
we got to the accounting space.
I loved every minute of it, man. You've been through it,
Yeah.
So I mean, you've learned a lot along the way, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's been cool. It's been a good experience. Some of the things that like the pinch me moments, a couple months ago, we were in Provo, Utah for an industry event, and it was my first time speaking on stage. And I just found myself like, this is nuts. If someone told me a couple of years ago I'd be speaking at an accounting event in Utah, I would be like, that's the most wild thing you could imagine. So it's been a cool ride.
That's fantastic, man. That really is. Um, all right. So tell our I'm sure we have some accounting people in the audience, but especially for the podcasters who are listening, this is a little bit of a unique way of doing things, and in terms of what they are normally it's, hey, here's my topic, I'm passionate about it, so on. You've constructed this thing from the bottom up as a business, in a niche, for a purpose, the whole nine yards. What is it you do for the accounting firm? Like, what's your service that you provide them?
Yeah, so we're a full service marketing company. So we help with their websites, either build or edit their existing websites. That's something we just started doing recently. Our core offering is generating leads, scheduling the appointments, making sure they're getting more reviews and ranking online where their potential customers are looking to find them. So basically making sure we can drive new revenue for a firm. And in the last 6 months, we've taken things a step further and we're actually selling on behalf of our fractional CFOs now. So we're going like the whole click to close, we're doing that. We're gonna get the lead, we're gonna book the appointment, send the reminders. We're gonna sell the deal on behalf of their firm, use their Stripe links to get them paid, and then we worry about the commission on the back end.
Holy cow. So you do it's full service. You bring them all the way in, basically into the seat in front of the accountant.
Yeah. Yeah, we book them right in and say, here's your new client. This
Wow.
is what they've agreed to buy. They've already paid. Now do the work.
Nice. And they pay you a commission for the service or a service fee? I mean, I don't, not
Yeah, so we do,
specifics, but yeah.
yeah, we do both. So we have a retainer model on the front end and then commission on the back. So just as if someone's bringing in someone to run the marketing for their firm, we're essentially the fractional marketing department for fractional CFOs. And just like they would need to bring in a sales rep to sell their leads, we're now selling. So significantly more inexpensive than if you brought people in-house and you have to worry about benefits and all of that and paying their full-time salary. We can come in and do that at a fraction of the cost and I'd say deliver better results.
Nice. You're also a real world example of someone who invested in an online course and then didn't just take it and, try it and throw it out the window, but took it, tried it. It sounds like you took the principles then and altered it to fit you. Am I picking this up right?
Yeah, so when I first got started, and I'm still in touch with that initial coach that I bought into at the time, is the scariest thing I ever did. I was just paid a stranger in Florida, 4 grand
Wow.
US being in Canada. So that was scary. Um, Invested into that, applied some principles, got a couple clients, started making a bit of money, ran with that as far as I could, and then invested into another program. Did that for about 2 years with, mentorship and different coaches. And then about the last year and a half, I've invested into a new program with, more marketers at a much higher level. And that's where I've been hanging out there. And, just basically who you get to rub elbows with is ideally who I'm looking. I just want to follow their path and they've already done it. So rather than trying to figure out myself, I could just follow their blueprint for the most part.
Wow. Okay, I mean that all by itself makes you a little bit of a unicorn. You know what I mean? Because I mean, you hear all the time people invest in the stuff and then it doesn't work, or everybody talks about getting scammed online. You spent the money, you actually put in the work, you tailored it, and you got creative with it and made it work and made it fit you and worked the system, and you're sitting here today with an actual flourishing business that started with that.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. And I appreciate your perspective on that because being in those groups all the time, it's, I guess from the outside, like the entrepreneurs, they're, the 1% of the 1% and, talking about what businesses make per year and all those things. And it's great to think, okay, yeah, cool, went and bought into a course and now there's something that came from it. But when you're in the room with everyone else who's all doing it, it's like, oh, I don't feel like the 1% anymore because that's just the peers you're with. So it's an interesting perspective to like kind of zoom out and think, okay, yeah, this isn't what everyone always does.
Right. Nice. All right, I like it. I really like it. Um, Tell me about the book, Booked Solid: Marketing Strategies for Accounting Firms. What led to that?
Yeah, actually, I have it right here. It's like I said before we are getting ready to record, I was just getting ready to send a copy out. So got a
Nice.
few beside the desk, but um, part of the group I'm in, and I'll have to give a shout out to my mentor, Josh Nelson. He's a very big proponent actually of building your authority in your niche. So one, having a niche. I already had one joining his group, but and then having a book, starting a podcast, hosting your monthly webinars, and just providing a ton of value wherever you can to your audience. And then from there, I mean, if the amount of value you can provide for free that's actually good makes it a lot easier to then bring on clients and provide even more value at a with an investment. So that's 100% where that idea came from. It was, okay, what are we doing for our clients? What could be beneficial to other firms? How do we get that in front of people and have a bit of an authoritative play with it? Publish a book,
Nice.
and host a podcast.
Ah, okay. So the podcast is in the same vein. This is all about establishing authority and branding and that type of thing. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
And just again trying to lead with a ton of value so that people are other people can grow their business or they're getting something from it. Yeah, and then the authority and everything else is just a byproduct of that.
Nice. I mean, that's sound business strategy right there. So I can appreciate it. Okay, in the book, I'm a little curious. Is it, educational? Is it, sort of demonstrating how to do it? Does it tell what you do, or is it maybe actionable steps? If somebody picks up this book, what should they expect to get?
It's a little bit of everything you just mentioned. It's very actionable, and very, I wouldn't say like very detailed where you're going to get lost in the weeds, but it is very actionable. Here's the things to do. Here's how to apply. Like if you want to get your Google business profile up, verified, and start generating organic leads, there's step-by-step plays in there. There's resources available that people can scan QR codes to jump in, and they have different SOPs to walk through and actually do the thing. The last thing I would want someone to do is read it and then be like, okay, that was cool, and then they don't do anything. So I wrote it to be extremely actionable so that when they're done reading it, a week later, someone could send a message and say, hey, I did the thing and now I have more reviews, or I did the thing and we're starting to get leads coming in, or I implemented this strategy and we're not wasting our money on ad spend anymore.
Nice. Okay, nice. Now, everybody loves the idea of writing a book and putting the book out there, and it makes total sense as to why. Like you just demonstrated. Did you just sit down and write a book, or did you like have a method you followed, or some sort of plan to it? I'm curious.
Yeah, so with the program that I'm a part of, there's a basically a module for everything you can imagine for running for a business, or let alone a digital marketing business. So following the playbook again, others have already done it. Everyone keeps refining what that module looks like. So just sitting down, following that process and brainstorming what's the core topic that I want to get across, and then breaking down what are the subtopics now to make this into a book, and then working through essentially each chapter and putting that information in there. This isn't a J.K. Rowling novel. There's not, 700 pages. I think there's 160 or so. But yeah, just what's going to be something that someone can take, be super intentional with, actionable, and actually make a difference in their business, and just write that out. So kind of just pouring the knowledge you already have on what you're quote unquote an expert in, and just making it available for everyone.
Nice. How long did it take you? Do you mind me asking?
Start to finish, start to finish, I would say probably like 24 hours of hard work.
No kidding. I
So
mean, that's pretty fast, really.
I was very motivated with time, knowing we were going to that industry event in Utah. I wanted to have the
Ah,
book ready to bring to gift to everyone in the crowd, and I wanted to have it at our booth and wanted to reference it from stage. So there was a lot of Saturday mornings or, at the end of like later in the night during the week where I was like, I just need to power through and knock out 2 or 3 hours and do this, or knock out, 6 hours on a Saturday. And I was fighting the clock, and I knew if I didn't have it done, there would be no pressing timeline after the fact to get it done. So that
nice.
was my motivation to really just lock in and do the work.
I love it. I love it. And I appreciate you kind of fielding these questions. I know this is about podcasting, but I coach podcasters. And one of the things that I talk to people a lot is that in establishing your branding, having a book to go along with it, just for all of the circular marketing, this market's that, this market's that, so on and so forth. All the different legs that having a book is a very important step and can be very, very helpful. So I appreciate you breaking it down into steps for folks who haven't gotten to that yet, because you're someone who's on here who has a podcast and actually has written the book and gotten it done. And that's really cool. That's
I
awesome.
I appreciate that. I would encourage anyone who's listening who's been thinking about it or putting it off, or you're a chapter away from it being finished, or you're a chapter in, just keep going and do it, and you're gonna love when it's done. It's a really cool asset to have. It's really cool
That's
to be able
great.
to, send your book to someone or get feedback from people being like, this is really cool. It's been super helpful.
That's huge. I appreciate that. All right, James, the podcast, which I've listened to, I like a lot. CFO Chronicles: The Secrets Behind Success. For people who haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, tell us what is that podcast about? Who's your listener, and what do you do on there?
Yeah, so the CFO Chronicles is fun. Majority of the episodes are all interviews with other industry leaders, essentially, other CFOs, tax planners, accounting firm owners. We've brought on some mindset coaches, leadership coaches. We've had some other marketing experts on there to share their views on different strategies. Have a couple solo episodes just recapping experiences or, an idea that popped into my mind. But it's we have a lot of fun on it, and the episodes run about 20 to 25 minutes, so they're pretty digestible. And again, like everything I push out, I try to make sure it's super actionable. So if someone's sitting down and investing their time into the book, into the podcast, I want to make sure they can leave with at least one thing they can go and do right then and there that will make an immediate impact in their business. So that's the main focus, and I would say the majority of the listeners would be in the entrepreneurial space, in the accounting world, in that realm. But really, all the principles that we speak about, because we bring on a lot of CFOs, we're just talking about cash flow and where's there cash leakages in your business, or what are the best tax strategies so you're not paying the IRS more than you need to. So even though it's focused around accounting, which a lot of people may say is a pretty dry industry. If you really think about it, there's a lot of cool strategies where at the end of the day, you can either make a lot more money, keep more money in your bank account, or you're just not paying the IRS more than you need to. So that stuff doesn't seem to be as boring when you're talking about how much money you get to keep versus, what people think of as accounting.
Yeah, you definitely work on a spectrum. You branch out a little more. I mean, every single guest is not just talking about accounting, for sure. I was looking through, the topics and the people you have on and that type of thing. And it sounds like it's a podcast that's actionable for most businesses. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would, because again, there's strategies in there again about cash flow or what red flags to be looking for with your existing accountant potentially? Or what is your bookkeeper not doing for you right now? So, yes, we bring on a lot of guests in that space, but it's not like the CFOs are speaking to other CFOs all the time about these strategies. So I think it is very actionable for business owners. And it helps you look through a different lens because if I wasn't as fortunate enough to work with CFOs and accountants, I probably wouldn't be so aware of, okay, well, if you can run payroll and you have a bit of money left over, your business is healthy. Well, it's not exactly the case. So getting to learn more about cash flow management and expense reduction and taxable strategies, it's been really interesting. Again,
Nice.
and it's not something if someone told me this, 7 years ago or 10 years ago, graduating university, they'd be like, oh, you're going to be working, shoulders deep with accounting firms and blah. It's like, that sounds crazy.
That's amazing, really. I love stories like this where people they have a podcast and the podcast has all these different uses and they're working on multi prongs of their business. It's inspiring. I love hearing it. The podcast itself. Now, it's a lot of good information. There are some actionable things obviously in there. With it being all interview, do you find that you don't really get a chance to use it as a marketing arm as much since you're not out there really promoting your stuff as much?
Um, Not really. I think again, it just comes back also to the authority play,
Hmm.
and it's a lot of easy content to for us to pull apart. We get to share that with our guests, which we're starting to do a little bit more, give them a couple of reels. Right now, we're giving them the full recording and they can chop it up on their own. We make a social post for them, but because of that, we get to post, we get to tap into their audience when they share it on their pages. And if they have a ton of, people in their network who are in the same space that we want to work with, that's a way for us to get in front of their audience while we provide value to them. So there is some marketing and there's strategies behind it, of course, but going on other people's podcasts, I think is a really great way to I mean, honestly, to sometimes be a little bit selfish and do the self promotion, but
Right.
having people come on your podcast, you get to put the spotlight on them, which is what you do on yours, which is really cool. And everyone, loves that spotlight for the most part. So it's just a
Very,
good
very
way
cool.
to and build authority and goodwill in your industry.
Yeah,
Then you start going to events and people are like, hey, I'm listening to your podcast, or you start getting some of the bigger players in your industry and you bring them on your podcast. It adds a lot more credibility. So there's so many benefits to hosting a podcast for your industry.
for sure. I mean, you're checking the boxes for sure. I mean, when it comes to, branding, especially, and like you said, authority, podcasts are great for that. And you're definitely, maxing that out and using that feature, which is very, very cool. Now, do you promote the podcast on its own, or is it just kind of a cog in the business wheel?
We promote it. Yeah, I would say we promote it a little bit. I'm like anything, I'm sure we could probably be doing it a little bit better. But every episode we push out once a week, we
Right.
send the guest a social media post for them to promote from their side. We put it on our Instagram story, in our LinkedIn newsletter. It's a resource there for people to gain more, valuable insight. It's in our email list that goes out. So we don't have ads running to push the podcast, but it does get pushed in some of the other, I guess, channels where we're making content. Something that I'm really excited about with the podcast is we recently picked up a sponsor a couple
Oh,
months ago
nice.
with Bill.com. So that was really cool. So being able to again put that on the podcast and it's like, oh, this is like a really real thing now. We have a sponsor on the podcast. So that's also been a pretty cool experience with the podcast. And now it's a revenue stream.
I love that too. That's one of my next questions that I usually get into is have you monetized? Now, how'd you end up getting the sponsor? They come to you, you go to them. How'd that work?
Yeah, so it was very interesting. We got an email one day from I believe it'd be an agency who was representing Bill. And
Uh,
at the time, I thought it was just a spam email. Like it didn't look real. And I was asking some of my mentors, I was like, hey, is this like, should I respond back to this? Like, it might look like spam, but it's it's kind of cool. Like someone's asking to sponsor, and I almost didn't respond out of I didn't want to like believe that maybe someone truly wanted to sponsor the podcast, and I was trying to be humble about the situation. And they're like, well, just respond back and see what happens. And then we got into dialogue, and they started asking about, what's the rates to sponsor, what's the stats on the show, and the really cool thing is since we've brought them on, as we were getting them onboarded, ready to go, our stats kind of skyrocketed. So they came in at a really low level as far as exposure, and we're so much further ahead now. And it's awesome for them because they're getting, I think, way more than they anticipated
Yeah.
from their initial interest. So that's been really cool to see.
That's awesome, and that also means they might stick around, and stay. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
it did not to get into specifics about money or anything, but I am curious if it was a long-term package or is it a month-to-month kick or an affiliate thing? Or can you tell us anything without, letting too much info out?
Yeah, so we landed on a 3 month, like a quarterly agreement to get started, and
Nice.
then we'll reassess after the quarter, and then probably look at something a little bit longer term. We've had other people inquire since having Bill come on and be a sponsor of the show, and yeah, we are like most things, right? Things take a little bit of time to get traction, so we're looking at different either 6 months or yearly engagements with new sponsors who want to come on.
Nice. Nice. It's funny too, isn't it? How you have nothing. You have no sponsor, or no one's interested, right? It's just crickets. And then you get that one. And then everybody's like, "Oh, okay, wait a minute. You mean you could sponsor your show and someone else took a risk first? Oh, okay. Maybe now I want to, talk to you about it." Are people coming out of the woodwork now?
It is interesting. There's a couple of people asking about it. Guests who come on shows have asked like either before or after the recording. So, um, someone told me in the past as well, and everything's no unless you ask. So
Yep.
now even just putting it out there, asking people, hey, are you interested in sponsoring the show? Worst case, we're going to be in the same situation as before we asked the question. So, yeah, just trying to never say someone else's no for them has been really big I would say the last 2 years.
Nice. Nice. I love that line. Don't say someone else's no for them. That's
Yeah,
that's awesome. Did you come up with that or did you get that from somebody else?
I didn't. A mentor of mine told me that, and it's a track that always plays in the back of my mind if I think like hesitant to ask a question or I'm thinking about a situation or like, oh, they wouldn't, I'm not even gonna bother asking. Like they wouldn't do that. And it's like, okay, well, why am I saying no for them? And as I've made those asks a lot more, not everything turns into a yes. It doesn't work like that, but at least you get it out. You practice that muscle.
Hmm.
You'll be surprised at how many things do turn into a yes or a potential deal or a partnership because you asked the question, you didn't say someone else's no for them.
Nice. Love it. I appreciate you sharing that stuff too. Thank you for
Yeah, of course.
kind of digging deep on that. A lot of podcasters out there talk about sponsorships all the time. And, I like I said, I coach these folks and I talk to them about, hey, let's work on this. Hearing from an actual person who actually got it, who actually has a sponsor and how it went is really priceless for a lot of the folks who are listening today. So that's fantastic content for them. And thank you for bringing that on. Just,
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone
yeah,
has more questions on that, they want to reach out and chat about it. This is all stuff I've been able to acquire from other people in my network who were kind enough to share it. So if I can help someone else land a sponsor from value I got from someone else who's done it before me, I'm more than happy to do that.
I appreciate that. I'm sure everybody else does too. That's awesome. Yeah, everybody always wants to know too. How do you incorporate AI in any of your stuff that you're doing? Do you incorporate any of it? And how's that working for you?
We do. I feel like I just came back from a conference a couple weeks ago with a ton of marketers in this mastermind I'm in, and there was a lot of talk about AI, and there's a lot of talk I think everywhere with AI now. It's the buzzword and or the buzz thing happening. We use it a lot right now for content creation when it comes to generating ideas or writing articles, and then if we have writer's block, okay, now we can go in and at least edit it and humanize it. But we do that with a lot of our clients' content we post on their behalf on their newsletter or their articles on their Google business profile. Again, it helps just with the writer's block or come up with more creative ideas. I use it in a lot of our emails that we write to send out to our list that we're nurturing, our emails that we're adding value to people. Something that someone shared with me in the past, taking the reels you make when you load them into YouTube, go in and grab your transcript, take that transcript, put it into Chat GPT or Grok, whatever you're using, and then prompt it to say, here's the transcript from a video. Now I want to make this into an article and reincorporate the video into the article. So you can take a 30-second reel now, take that transcript and write a full-blown article on that piece that you were talking about for 30 seconds. So we were doing that mostly for a lot of content. We've tested a little bit with an AI appointment setter for vocal appointment setting. It's okay. It's not the greatest. And don't know if we're there yet in the financial space where people would trust what might sound like AI, what might sound like a human. Like a lot of people do want to speak to a human when it comes to asking questions about tax or accounting. So I think other industries, it might be a little bit more robust, but that is something we've tested as well. And always looking where can we add more AI, not to eliminate jobs, but enhance the roles that the team members are doing.
Great answer. That was a great AI answer right there. So I appreciate it very much, especially the end. You're not trying to eliminate jobs. You're just trying to make everyone more efficient.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense, man. I usually ask a corny question of everybody, and for you, I mean, I know why you do it, but this is a little bit different. So, in doing your podcast, um, what is it about doing your podcast that you love the most, and what is it about doing your podcast that you just hate the most?
That's a good question. Um, well, to tie in the AI piece, one thing that I kind of hate is the prep work of getting the questions prepared and the intro and like doing the homework on the guest and making sure it's a really solid episode. I don't get excited about that. Like I'd love to jump on if I could have that stuff just ready to go. If
Yeah.
someone else could do it and I just jump in and run the episode, that's awesome. I really enjoy the learning aspect, especially with the industry because we can tie it into our own ads to attract more clients because we know more pain points. We can apply it to our clients' messaging based off of other people's experiences. So there's a lot of value where we can just get better results for us and our clients. So what we're trying to do now for the piece I hate um, is when we have a guest who fills out our form to come on the podcast, having certain fields like their LinkedIn, their website, their name, all of these things. And it's in the process. We almost have it done, but then pushing that automation into ChatGPT, having a prompt to scrape all of that information, generate a list of questions and an intro, and then email it to me. So then when I go to do the podcast, it's just ready to go. Everything's done.
All right. That's unique. I like that. I like that idea. All right. So that's what you hate is having to do that part.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the part about doing your podcast that you love the most?
Yeah. So sorry, I probably blended those answers a bit. The part I do love is hearing other people's stories,
Ah,
learning more about the industry. What are some really cool success stories of others? Similar to the questions you've asked, like how did someone get into what they're doing? Why are they passionate about what they do? Like we've had clients come on and just other guests where some of the stories were nuts. Like the accounting forensics or just like we had a client who there was what's the word now? Basically like the FBI had to get involved. There's just like a ton of I think it was money laundering or like
oh, wow.
embezzling money and it's just like hearing stories from another perspective where you just that's not what I think many think of when they hear accounting, but there's some wild stuff that's gone on in people's, in their own business with accounting or when they were working somewhere else for someone else's business. So those stories are cool to hear. And then always, how did someone actually get into the space? What gets them excited about accounting?
Wow. All right. I mean, they got Al Capone, one of the biggest gangsters in the history of the world, on tax evasion. So I suppose
Right?
there are
Right?
stories in accounting. Yeah, that's not a
Exactly.
joke. Right on. One of the best parts about being the host of the podcast is that, when I kind of get inspired, I can go off the beaten path just a little bit. You've been through it. You've had quite a path to get where you are. And some of the stuff, that you've talked about, has rung some bells in my head in terms of, how tough some of those jobs are. You say what you do and you talk about the job as if it's no big deal, but I've been down a lot of those paths. I was in sales for 30 years, so different types of sales, all kinds of different kinds of sales. So I understand the heartache and the sleepless nights and how tough a lot of those jobs are. I'm curious, just hearing your past. What was the toughest job you had to do? And what made it so tough?
Oof. There's so many running through my mind right now. I had a million jobs before. The longest job I ever had is this one, the business I started.
That's
Um,
good.
I oh my goodness, there's a couple. I mean, there was one summer in between college years. I I basically was just jumping, like working for what do you call them, like a placement agency or something. You might like just work for a day, or you go a
Hmm.
couple days here or there and do whatever.
Yeah.
And I was saving up for a trip back to Sweden, so I didn't want to get a full-time job somewhere. I was just like, okay, where can I make a bit of money? One day, I was called in to the waste management facility, and I had no idea really what to expect. I showed like they called me like we need you there in 10 minutes. So I didn't eat. I just drove there. I left my water bottle and phone in the car, and right away I was put on the back of a dump truck, and we were driving through the country roads. And the driver was going like 80 kilometers an hour. I'm just like hanging on for dear life, throwing garbage bags in the back, and it was like 35 out in Celsius. It was very hot. There's dust all day. I didn't have any water. Like the truck didn't stop. And the whole time I was like, well, this is for my trip to Sweden, so I just gotta keep going. And towards the end of the day, we went through like a little cul-de-sac where there were some kids playing, and they came out, and I thought they were gonna be excited to see the big truck coming through. It's a little delirious at this time. And a kid comes out and he grabbed a bag of garbage and threw it at me and said, "PU garbage man, you stink."
Oh.
It's like, oh man, if I had my phone and I knew where I was in these country roads, I would have just got off and called someone to pick me up. That's one of them. Yeah, I don't know.
Wow.
Like longer, I worked on a banana farm when I was in Australia for a couple days to get my second year visa. You're supposed to do like I think 60 days remote work. I did a couple days on this banana farm. It was the most labor intensive job I've ever done. You're walking through like muddy trails. There's a guy with a machete hacking the tree down. There's like 90 pounds of bananas coming down on your back. There's snakes sleeping inside the garbage bag with coiled up with the bananas. There's spiders everywhere. You're slipping in the mud and they're yelling at you to not drop all the bananas because they'll get bruised and then they can't sell them. So that was stressful for a couple days. That wasn't for me, so just applied for my visa and it got approved and I left in the middle of the night.
Wow. Holy cow. I mean, I asked that question just because I heard you did door to door, and I know how tough door to door is. And you came up with like trash facility in the country and banana farm. Brother, you
Yeah.
really have done like you've been through it. I mean, you've earned your way to where you are.
Yeah. The door to door
Wow.
was tough. I think anyone who gets into sales should be a prerequisite you do door to door and
Oh
phone
yeah.
sales.
Oh yeah.
I would I'm so happy I did it. There were some really hard days there, but I actually really enjoyed it. And I think to a certain degree, being Canadian, doing it in Australia, having a different accent played to my advantage a lot of the time. There was other times where the locals seemed to be making more sales because there was more of a trust, but I don't know. I did really well and really enjoyed the door to door for the most part for about the 7 months I did it. There were some really bad days where, you walk around for 10 hours and you didn't make a dollar. But then
Wow.
there's other days you make, some really good money, especially as a backpacker where you're living with six other people in a three-bedroom house. You feel like you're rich.
How has all of that experience helped you with the business that you're doing now?
I would say I just probably just super relentless, like or too stubborn to quit. Like all of these things, I wanted to be the best sales rep at the door-to-door companies. Like every morning they would read off the top three people who made the most sales. Like I knew when I started, I wanted to be the person getting my name called as much as possible. I didn't want to be in the background. So just I was like, oh, I have to win. I'm just a very competitive person
Yeah.
and just tried to absorb as much as I could from the people whose names were getting called so that I could be one of those people in the room. Um, the group I'm in now, like every quarter, they have awards for businesses that are growing, crossing certain thresholds. And every time there's a little bit of jealousy. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't. But when other people cross the stage and they're getting big plaques and they're hitting insane revenue numbers that I can only dream of, I'm like, I I want to be them. I want to walk across the stage just like they're doing. So it might be a bit stubborn. Maybe it's competitiveness, but if you don't quit, you can't lose.
Nice. That's a great line too, right there. Very, very true. All right, man. Listen, I appreciate you sharing that stuff. It's totally off the beaten path. Thanks for humoring me, but it all kind of plays into who you are, as a person, as a business owner. So, congratulations on everything you've been putting together, on everything that you have. And before I hit you with my last question and we kind of start wrapping it up, tell everybody how could they reach you, find your book, the whole bit.
Yeah, so I appreciate what you're saying there as well. And this has been really enjoyable. It's been great chatting with you. The book's on Amazon. Book Solid, you can find it whatever country you're in, it'd be there. You can order it. Um, Find me on LinkedIn. I'd say that's the easiest spot. James Donovan, based out of Toronto on LinkedIn. I'm now on the east coast of Canada, but my profile still says I'm in Toronto. And you can send me an email, james at 92media.com. So NINETWO media.com.
Gotcha. All right. We'll make sure all that stuff's in the show notes too that you just gave us. So, as we kind of bring this to a close, you've been doing the podcast itself for almost a year. About 50 episodes. You're right there. By the time this airs, it probably will have been a year for you. So, let me just say congratulations for the
Thank you
time
so
you're getting
much.
there. That's a huge milestone to hit, and one of many, I think, for what you're getting ready to do here. But the last question I usually ask is, in a year you've learned some things. You've overcome some obstacles. So, what's your best piece of advice for podcasters who are not quite where you are yet?
I'm gonna shout out my team member for this one who helps with the production of our podcast and making it what it is. I'm just the talking head on it that surprisingly people listen to. Anna makes it all great and it gets loaded and it runs and she I can be very like shiny object syndrome, jump around and a question pops into my head, no structure. I used to go into the podcast with zero structure. I was like, oh, I'll ask them a couple things and if something comes up, I'll ask this, and it was all over the place. How'd you get started? Where are we at now? What was in the middle? How'd you get started? Like, just it was a mess. So she's really helped me learn and research other podcasts and build more of a story with it and have more of a flow and use the guest as kind of the hero within the story, like where they get started, what were some of the trials and tribulations, and build up the peak or the arc of the episode.
Yeah,
And that's where, ChatGPT and AI has helped a ton because you can feed that as a prompt based off of who you're interviewing, and that can help develop the questions for you.
right.
So I would say that's been the biggest thing is lean on someone else who knows what they're doing, ask for people's advice, listen back to your own episodes. If they're really cringy, that's a good thing because you'll know that's not what you want to be doing, as tough as it is. And then, yeah, try to tell a bit of a story, get your guest to tell a bit of a story that flows to keep your audience engaged.
Great advice. Absolutely great advice. Listen, James, you got a fantastic story, man. You really do, and I appreciate you coming and telling it, giving everybody hope that there's a lot of folks out there who are toiling through part-time jobs and doing day labor like you did, and they're thinking, hey, can I build something? And you're an example for everybody that, hey, look, I just put my head down, decided to grind, and I did. And you had an open mind. You bought an online course. I mean, that's a huge story. That really is, and it's worked out for you. So, congrats on everything that you have going, and absolutely best wishes for the future, man. I think you're on to big, big things here.
Thank you so much, Roy. I really appreciate that. And thanks again for having me on. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you coming on. Folks, this has been another awesome episode of the Podcaster Nation. The reason we get these incredible podcasters on here to tell their stories and talk about how they made it is because this is the podcast that's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And as we showed yet again today, this is the podcast where the rising tide truly raises all ships. So keep sailing.